a really great introduction, but I am excited to introduce Svenia Busson to the stage with us this morning. And I know Svenia from years ago. She did an EdTech tour. And Svenia, you went all over the world, or
Yes,
for how many
yes.
days a year?
19 countries in total.
19 countries on an EdTech tour. And I had the opportunity to interview her about that tour on my podcast years ago. And I can't wait to hear everything you're going to share with us to update the updates since that tour, because I'm sure there are lots of things. So, Svenia, welcome. I don't have your proper bio in front of me, but I hope that you'll take the stage and wow us anyway. Thank you so much for being here. And if you need anything from a technical perspective, I still am right back behind the scenes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Super glad to be here. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to share my screen and show you some of the things I wanted to show you today. All right. So, as you said, I've traveled a lot these past few years, and I want to share a bit of my discoveries with you and share what I've seen across the globe in terms of best practices in education innovation, especially in higher education, because that's the topic of the day. So a bit more about me. So I'm a learning explorer. I'm an entrepreneur. Now I'm turning investor. I'm building a new VC fund to support edtech startups across Europe. And before that, I've built a company, and I've built multiple trade associations. I started in France, where I'm from. I built a trade association to represent the education technology industry, and then I did that for on the European level as well. And I wrote a book called Exploring the Future of Education, where I tell a bit about my discoveries in Europe, what I've seen in 8 different countries in Europe. And so basically, as Melissa said, I started the EdTech tours in 2016 with my very first tour, the EdTech World Tour. And then I continued traveling across the globe. If you want to know more about these tours and the best practices that I've seen and discovered, just go on edtechtours.com. 19 different countries, 5 continents. It was an amazing journey. It got, on hold because of COVID. I couldn't really travel anymore, but I'm really looking forward to continue traveling and discovering new things every year. So basically, what I wanted to discuss with you today is about the future of work, the future of education, and the intersection between both. And I really think if we talk about the future of work, we have to really make sure that we start thinking about it as soon as possible. And when you look at these stats, you really see that there is a problem, that there is a huge gap between what universities believe their institutions are effectively preparing at, and the world of employers, HR directors who do not really agree that universities teach graduates the skills they need to succeed in the workplace. So we have a huge gap here, where we see that a lot of chief academic officers believe that they're doing a great job to prepare students for the world of work, and then on the other side, you see that that's not how it's felt, basically. And when you look at 80% of the jobs students will fill in the future do not exist yet. And at the same time, 91% of employers said that the demonstrated capacity to think critically, to communicate clearly, to solve complex problems is much more important than a job candidate's undergraduate degree. So that's really important. And so when we look at these stats, I really feel that there's something that has been missing. It's really the bridge between education and what is needed in the workplace. And I really think that we need to bridge the skills gap, because there is a huge skills gap with better and more relevant K-12 and higher ed institutions. So first of all, start with K-12 and then go to higher ed. But before that, I'd love to ask you, I don't know if it's possible. Oops. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I don't know if it's possible and if you can answer some of these questions, but I have one question for you guys. And if some people in the room want to give it a try, but what do you think are the top most important skills to become and stay employable now up until 2025? What are the top 10 skills according to the World Economic Forum that has asked thousands of HR directors, and they've asked what matters, what does matter, what are the skills that matters nowadays. And so I would love for you to cite 1, 2, 3 skills you think are in this top 10 basically. What do you think are the most important skills to become and stay employable? I don't know if there's any way you can reply on the chat or.
Well, and I think that this might be an opportunity to test our microphone in London. But is there anyone in the room who can? I put the question up for you, and when I see them show up on the screen below, I'll add them in. I believe. Banyan. Oh, wait, 1 second. I see this one. David, are you there? You go.
If I come up to the podium,
It works.
We don't get the echo. We only get the echo if I sit downstairs.
Okay. So is there anyone in the room who would be willing to respond? And if there's anybody that's online that would be willing to respond to this question, I will pull your response up as well.
We do have Nariman. Would you like to come in?
We can't hear her, David. Better now.
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning. I mean, we all learn the skills of the French. This is like what you're talking about, critical. But I think the most crucial skill is the academic skill. I need to learn and relearn. This is what students do. So like I can feel like easy to and that really, getting the skills.
Thank you very much.
Can you repeat that for us, David?
The most important skill is the skill to learn and to relearn.
I like that. Yes, learn, unlearn, and relearn. Yeah, that's a very, very important one. Definitely. Thank you so much for that. And learning how to learn, super, super important. And it is part of the top 10 skills I want to share with you, actually. And we're gonna look into it right now. So that is the Future of Jobs Report 2020. And what we see here is that the top 10 skills are basically organized in 4 different categories. First, in blue, problem-solving skills. Then in green, self-management. In yellow, working with people. And in purple, technology use and development. And learning how to learn is number 2, active learning and learning strategies. So that's exactly it. And then, you have an analytical thinking, complex problem solving, critical thinking, of course, creativity, leadership, technological use and technology design and programming, but also resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility, reasoning, ideation. So, I mean, there are 80% of this list is basically soft skills. And that's what I wanted to share with you, is that, what matters now, if you have exactly the same CV, is basically what the other types of skills that you can demonstrate. And these ones are super, super important nowadays. Do we teach them in school? No, not yet. Not in most of schools. Do we teach them in university? Not really either. And so that is for me one of the key issues. And I would love to share some of the best practices I've seen with you where these skills are being taught. So the first example I wanted to share with you is a K-12 example from Finland. It's a concept called School as a Service. It has been developed 6 years ago by Jaamo Suonimen that you see here. He's a service architect from Aalto University. Basically, what he thought that schools, high schools specifically, shouldn't, stay between four walls, but should really be a living being, basically, and use the premises of a city. And basically what he thought is that why not have students use the city as a learning playground? And so he started with Aalto University in Espoo, the city of Espoo in Finland. He asked the university if he could put a co-working space in the middle of the campus, which is the heart here, where students come and take lunch together and work together, and then basically use the premises of the campus to have their biology class in the biology department of the university, their economics class in the startup incubator of the university, their French class in the library of the city that is just 700 meters down the road. And so basically these high school students walk from one place to another during the day, and that's how basically their school day looks like. It's a lot about moving your body, walking from one premise to another, and then finding each other at lunch and after school to do homeworks together in this heart, basically in this co-working space. And so I thought it was super interesting to also see schools and the learning environment as a different type of environment, and having these students be more basically aware that they are responsible for their own learning, and that learning can happen everywhere, and you don't need a school to learn. A city can be your learning playground, basically. So I really love this idea of a school as a service, where you really take advantage of a city or a neighborhood to enhance the learning experience, and to really get them to understand that learning occurs everywhere and not just inside a classroom. And there's another program that I wanted to share with you that I really found super interesting from Spain, called the M Schools Mobile Schools program. And basically what they do, it's a public-private partnership between the private foundation and the Ministry of Education in Catalonia. And what they do is they teach kids in a secondary school, they teach them about digital literacy. And digital literacy nowadays is absolutely key. We saw it in the top 10 skills. Technological use, technology, the understanding behind technology is super important nowadays. And so what this program does, it teaches these students for a whole year how to use mobile technologies for the better. Basically teach them how to be producers of technology rather than simple consumers and passive consumers of technology. And so they have to choose a problem they want to solve in their community, and they then have to pick a team, and then they have to build a mobile app to solve concrete world problems that they see in their communities. And it changes their vision of technology. They don't see their mobiles as something that they use for fun, for recreation, but they see it as a tool that can change things. And it really, at the end of this 1 year program, they're completely transformed. They are, seeing themselves as change makers. They see that they can achieve something with technology. And this program had a really big impact on how these kids were seeing technology and using technology. There was really a before and an after, and it still continues in a lot of schools, public schools in Catalonia. And I think it's really amazing, because digital literacy should be part of any curriculum. It's absolutely key to understand how the internet works, how an algorithm works, understand that our lives are biased by algorithms, and also to understand how to see, when you look at news, see that there's a difference between fake news and real news, and understand the difference and verify your sources. All of this is absolutely key nowadays. So I really think that this program is making a huge difference for kids in Catalonia. I mean, I could talk for hours, about these great K-12 institutions that I've seen across the globe. But yeah, it's just, if you want to have a look at these, I mean, they were one of the most interesting ones that I've seen across the globe. And now, if we go one step higher, if we go to higher education and how this is completely transforming right now, I'm going to give you a few examples of best practices in higher ed as well, starting with Minerva Schools. It's a university that has been built by a former Harvard dean. He wanted to build a learning experience that was completely different from the campus experience that he and most Americans knew. And so he built this platform. It's an online platform where students that are part of Minerva University, they come together, they learn on that platform. So all of the classes happen online on this platform that they built. And then what happens is that this platform, it really facilitates the amazing learning experience that you have as a student. Basically, as a student at Minerva, you start your undergraduate degree with a 6 months program focused on soft skills. You learn everything about soft skills. They took the top 10 skills of the World Economic Forum and they divided them in sub skills. And so they learn everything about how to think critically, how to act creatively, how to work in teams. And they do that for 6 months. And then basically they pick a specialty. So they pick a school. You can go to the School of Arts and Humanities, Computer Science, Natural Science, Social Science, and Business. And for the 3 next year, you focus on your major. And while you do that, you travel the globe. So basically, the concept is simple. They start with 6 months in San Francisco. They all live together in, a rented building in San Francisco for 6 months. All their classes are online. And then they do the same across the globe. They go to Berlin for 6 months. They all live together in one space. All their classes are online because, the professors cannot follow them on their little world tour. Then they go to Seoul in South Korea. Then they go to India, Hyderabad, Buenos Aires, London, Taipei. They basically do a world tour during their undergraduate degree. And I think, it brings them a lot of skills about, understanding how other cultures work, intercultural skills, but also interpersonal skills as well. And so what they learn is soft skills. They also learn how to work in these 6 different countries. So basically, they have to work 2 days per week in a selected startup or an NGO or a company, whatever they choose. So they learn how to work in a specific context, in a specific environment, and they learn many languages. And at the end of their undergraduates, they come back to San Francisco to graduate, and basically almost all of them already has a job offer, because these graduates are super employable. They have all the skills needed. They travel the globe. They are open-minded world citizens, basically. And yeah, and I think this program really, really makes a difference. And it is, for me, an example to follow, because they understood that skills are changing constantly, and that the capacity to learn, unlearn, relearn is absolutely fundamental. And yeah, and they've built something extraordinary. And now it's harder to get into Minerva and to get into Harvard, actually. They have um, you know, it's just they have achieved something really amazing in just 5 or 6 years. So I'm really confident that this model will grow and inspire others. But I really think that that's what the new generation wants. Basically, that sort of learning experience. And I talk about experience because that's something that we do not see enough. The word and the term experience. Learning is an experience, and in most universities, you don't really feel that you are experiencing something extraordinary. And I think that's part of the journey. So Minerva is very, very inspiring. And yeah, last example, Hyper Island or Talent Garden now. They are university based in Sweden, on an island. It was a former prison that was turned into this very creative university where there's no lecture halls. It's only experiential learning, real projects with real clients. These students learn while they do. And so clients come to Hyper Island and ask for the students' input. So, for example, Electrolux came to Hyper Island and said, we want your students to develop the millennial vision of our new product. And so, they have 1 month, and at the end of the month, they have a presentation in front of the board. And so, students prepare. They have a whole month. They have a whole month. And what happens is, in real life, that can happen. Your client calls you and says, it's super urgent. I need you to present your solutions in 2 weeks. And so that's what happens. They trick students and they say, you thought you had a month, but you only have 2 weeks left now. And so it makes it all very real. And so they only work on real life projects, and that makes a huge difference as well, because it really links between real life problems as well. So learning by doing is what happens mostly there. Last thing I wanted to talk to you about is the challenges. The higher education challenges are the boot camps. When you look at, for example, Iconoclast, teaching sales skills, how to be a great salespeople. Why would you go to a business school for 5 years if you can, with these new boot camps, learn very specific skills in a few weeks or a few months, and then find a job? So what they've built at Iconoclast, for example, is really interesting, because it's a sales boot camp. It lasts 3 months, and at the end of these 3 months, 99% of the students are placed into jobs. And that should also be one of, the key missions of a higher education institution, is also, to place students in jobs in the end, and not create a generation of job seekers. And so these new boot camps, they're very fast, they're very efficient, and they're very hands-on. That changes everything. So you have them for any types of skills: tech skills with Le Wagon, design skills with Ironhack, sales skills with Iconoclast, business development, growth tribe. So, and they are making a huge difference, actually. And so if you want to go further with some resources, you can find them on EdTech Tours. If you're interested in business education and business school innovation, you can also go on learnspace.fr and download our latest report on business education innovation. And I'd be happy to hear your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Svenia. I I love hearing the stories from around the world that you can bring to us. I'm bringing David now. I don't see any questions in the online chat, although I would invite anyone online that if you have any questions for Svenia, feel free to put them in there. And David, do you have anyone in there that has some questions?
Well, no questions are. We do have a question from the hall. Now, I'm not quite sure. We're a little technologically challenged in the hall this morning. But let me just make a comment while a microphone goes to our questioner, or our questioner might come to this microphone. Svenia, you made a wonderful contribution which links so much with the policy contributions that we started with. And we had Professor Michael Murphy, who's president of the European University Association, talking about their strategy, which is called University Without Walls. And he, for higher education, was making precisely the same points. And this is the first Gulf conference where we've seriously included schools as well as universities. So to see that link across the two is very encouraging. But I think we now do have a microphone and a speaker together. So would you like to put your question? Would you like to come up to this microphone, which seems to be working?
We are flexible today. Welcome. Thank you so much for moving to the mic.
No problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. My name is Julian Plumley. I'm an EdTech founder. I'm working on an argument mapping app. And I've got a question about school education, which is, there seems to be a problem, a very basic problem, that we use school education for two purposes. One is to learn, and the other is to judge people. They go through the exam system in Britain, A levels, for example, and we judge them into the successful and the unsuccessful, and life outcomes come out accordingly. And things like experiential learning, design-led learning are all great for learning, but they are harder for this judging process. So in my case, I would love people to use my product, but I can't change the exam system. And the exam system seems to be more based on judging students than on actually helping them learn. I think that's a very basic problem in school education. I'd be very interested in your thoughts on that.
Thank you for your question. So yeah, exams are, are not meant to disappear basically, and I think they will continue to remain what they are, because we need, as you say, we need to judge and basically make a choice and rank. Unfortunately, we're still in that mindset, rank students, and but I think that in order to succeed in your exams, you need to learn in an effective way. And what we know about our brain and how it learns is that it learns and it retains information when it is actively engaged. And when the brain is actively engaged, it retains information much better in a much more effective way than if it is cramming for an exam, for example. So you can still succeed in your exams, but learn in a very different way, in a way that will engage you, and in a way where you will really retain the information that you're learning. And so that's why I love these new methodologies and pedagogies. It's because with project-based experiential learning, you are engaged and you retain what you learn, and that's for me the most important part. Even yes, exams will still exist, but I think you will perform better if you understand what you learn and if you do it in a fun, engaging way, basically.
I want to dovetail on that just because I'm here and I'm saying hello to everyone today. My favorite thing to ask of systems and teachers is this really simple activity, and I think everyone should do it at the beginning of every professional learning opportunity they provide. Compare and contrast learning and achievement. In schools, we are striving for achievement, and in order for that achievement to happen, there needs to be learning. But our focus is so skewed towards achievement that we forget about the learning pieces. And achievement in and of itself is meant to sort students, those who can and those who do, from those who can't and those who won't. And I believe that if we really want to close the achievement gaps that we create ourselves so that we have work to do, we have to do a little bit of shifting back to learning. So we have to figure out where the focus is. But I can say that all day long. When you ask professionals to compare and contrast achievement and learning, the conversation becomes open as long as they're able to contribute, and we can see that. And I've asked that question a million times in my career, and it has made the biggest difference. And I would challenge each of you to spend time thinking about it and actually comparing and contrast learning and achievement, because they are not the same thing and they are not mutually exclusive. So thank you so much for your question. And
Fully agree, Melissa.
I think we're friends, Svenia.
I don't see any other questions online. So, Svenia, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for